Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday night, March 8th, 2023. It's about 9:28 p.m. here along the west coast in California. And taking a look at the latest earthquake activity here across the globe, shows a 2.2 into the area of Hawaii. That's going to be the latest earthquake there on the map. We did see some further activity kind of ramping its way over across the portions of the northern Pacific plate here, and more movement into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Kind of watching that pretty closely here, expecting some larger scale movement across this region. It's been building for quite a while. This has been our, for the most part, our very quiet zone in terms of a larger scale activity. If we were to go back here the past few months or past year or so, you'll see that activity has basically moved all across the western Pacific plate and down south, except for specifically within this zone of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. We have seen some smaller quakes, but nothing of considerable size that would alleviate that threat for a large earthquake. Over the last 24 hours, did see a 5.6 and a couple low-grade 5s within the same area of each other, roughly about the northern end here of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. So we'll continue to watch that. Across Alaska area, getting a swarm of earthquake activity here across this volcano. Let's see which one that is. That's a lot of activity. Holy smokes, 133 earthquakes. Let's see what's going on with the volcano hazards up here with the HVO. Stand by for just a second. That's going to be region up here. That's a lot of activity. Goodness. I mean, you never know unless you zoomed in, right? Quite a bit. Okay, so this is going to be off on that hook right here. I'm not for sure which volcano that is. Let's see. I think it's one of these up here. Quite a bit of activity. Let me check out the seismograph station if it's going to let us. Maybe not. A couple of these actually do not look like they're working whatsoever. That does us no good. So it does look like the area of interest in terms of earthquake activity across this volcano. I'm trying to see the name here. Let me remove some of this. Let's see what we got. Yeah, it's going to be right up here. See if there's any recent notification here about this volcano. Sits at a yellow, color code yellow, alert level advisory. All right, let's see here what we got. Daily update was put out. Well, that's Mount St. Helens. What are we doing? What's going on here? Why did it zoom us into the Mount St. Helens area? That's a little on the weird side. Let's go back up here. Stand by for a second. Even though over here it shows Tanaga. It's goodness. Okay. Either way, a lot of earthquake activity here. This shows the last 2 weeks of earthquake activity here across this volcano region. And last 2 hours in the red, last 2 days in the orange. Now, it looks like there is a little bit more specific activity occurring here with a nearby volcano as well. It looks like there's 2 specific volcanoes on this area of the Aleutian Trench. And yeah, I would say they're definitely 2 separate ones. Let's see what we got here for the daily update. I'm guessing it's Tanaga, right? Hopefully. Ongoing seismic swarm beneath the volcano. No activity observed in satellite data. For the complete text here, earthquake activity beneath the volcano began to increase about 1:30 Alaska time, March 7th, which was yesterday. At roughly 8:45 p.m. last night, the activity escalated with earthquakes occurring. I don't know if you guys can read this. It's quite small even on my end. Occurring as often as 2 or 3 each minute. Initial locations of these earthquakes place them beneath the summit of Tanaga Volcano and to the west beneath the Sajaka or Sajaka Volcano. The largest of these earthquakes had magnitudes between 2 and 3. Seismic activity slowed overnight before picking up again this morning, with several dozen events occurring per hour in response to the seismicity. The Alaskan Volcano Observatory raised the aviation color code to yellow and the volcano alert level to advisory. So that's actually quite interesting here. Quite a bit of uptick here. Largest magnitude. Looks like there was a 4.4 in the mix here tonight. So things are escalating since that report. It looks like 5 kilometers deep. Quite a few threes there. Most recent quake looks like a 2.6 within this area. Goodness, that's just a lot of earthquake activity. Obviously, it looks like it could be getting active here at these volcanoes. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. And of course, for the latest information, the USGS has a decent site. I just don't know why I'm not able to pick up the seismograph stations here across the area. Let me see what we got here for GPS stations up around that region. Kind of want to get a glance at some specific GPS stations. Let's see exactly where we're at here. Right here. None. That's kind of odd. Nothing being listed up here on this map for USGS or the GPS stations. And the ones that are listed for the USGS are not working. Let's see, what else is there on here? There's that's a lot of activity. Goodness. Not going to go through all this, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it. For sure, historic events. Looks like some prior eruption, 2014, is that right? 6 events, of course, going back to about the 1700s or so. Looks like non-eruptive activity. The last eruption, 1914. That's going to be there in the red exclamation mark. So, yeah, we'll check back on that. Wasn't really expecting to cover that activity tonight, but, you know, it kind of just looks like a small little swarm occurring at that volcano until you zoom in and you see 134 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. Most of that here, I think, occurring within the last few hours today. So that's quite a bit of activity across that volcano. And this is all kind of an ongoing cycle, if you will, of noticeable increasing activity here across the northern end of the Pacific Plate and, of course, around the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. So we've definitely noticed specifically these 3 areas around the Pacific Plate showing uptick. Continue to watch that and report back on it if anything changes. Further towards the Alaska area, looks like some movement across the Cook Inlet area. Just want to double check, make sure everything's good. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, so I don't know, I think I sneezed, 4 or 5 times here on one of the updates here last night. So yeah, I got a slight fever and I'm just not quite myself. I can feel it. So I want to make sure I don't make too many mistakes out here. But a little activity stretching up here through the Cook Inlet today. Look at the 2.5 map and above. Does show some activity across the region of the Alaska area. A lot of this movement, we got one earthquake here outside of Anchorage, about 40 kilometers deep. A little separate swarm of activity near the McCarthy area of Alaska, 4.5, and some smaller quakes there in the mix as well. There's that earthquake from early this morning off the coast of the Vancouver Island range of 4.3, coming into the northern end of the Juan de Fuca Plate. On that note, let's see what the tremor map looks like tonight along the Cascadia subduction zone. Got about 14 epicenters, not that big of a deal right there. Very small, minimal amount underneath the Oregon area. Down into the Cascadia. Nothing major going on, though. All right, getting back to the earthquake activity here in Northern California. A little spotty activity across NorCal today. 2.5 map and above does not show a whole lot of movement out here. We did see some activity into eastern Oregon early this morning near Richmond. There's some old ancient volcanoes out here, but not specifically sure if this one took place at one of those locations. There's a couple different fault systems that run locally here through the eastern Oregon region. Yellowstone National Park, not a whole lot of activity, but let's just verify that for time to make sure, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of activity. There is a small couple specks here within the last couple hours right there at Yellowstone National Park, confined to about the northern edge here of the Yellowstone caldera, which is in the black outline. That's the Yellowstone supervolcano caldera. And other than that, though, just like I mentioned, a couple small microquakes. Eastern portion of the country pretty quiet. Let's take a closer look here at the SoCal area. I know we've had a lot of rain, a lot of snow, and there's a lot more coming in the forecast. We'll get to that quick weather deal here in just a minute or two. Outside the Barstow area, 1.2 coming in. Also some activity near the Julian area, it looks like. 1.0, very small microquakes off the Elsinore fault system. All right, further down south, looking not too active across the Puerto Rico area. Only got about 5 earthquakes here listed up on the map. Although looking at the USG or the EMSC model here shows a swarm of 4s kicking off here in the last couple hours. It looks like up and down the Middle America Trench over here. USGS reporting one of those earthquakes, a 4.9. In the Mexico area, but we're noticing a little uptick in movement here across this region. That's a pretty deep earthquake, 123 kilometers into the Middle America Trench. But as noted here, there's definitely more than one earthquake showing up in that area, so we'll watch that for some further movement. South America region tapering off in activity, a couple 2s and some 3s. USGS showing looks like a couple 4s here throughout the last 24 hours. Across the New Zealand area down here, well, we got one 5.3 early this morning south of the Fiji Islands area, 500 kilometers deep just about. And look at the EMSC model here, shows, well, doesn't show a lot here for New Zealand. That's a little on the concerning side because this definitely a little odd. But then again, as I mentioned here at the earlier portion of this video, the most of the momentum right now is up against the North American Pacific plate boundary up here along the northern edge, and of course the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. So I'm sure adjustment will be taking place here. We did see some deeper movement quakes, as noted here this morning. This 4.3 with only minimal. It doesn't even look like there's been any adjustment upstream here. So this is actually a little odd here, seeing this quiet area across here. So continue to watch that for some movement. But let's see here. We did see some, what's going on here? What do we got? Is EMSC not reporting data? It's a little weird. Looks as though the number count here got off as far as the amount of hours shown on the globe. This is a 24-hour map right here now, which still shows some of these older quakes here. I was going to say, there's a whole bunch showing here on the USGS map, but nothing on the globe. What's going on? So latest one, it looks like, since this morning, there is a pretty good time gap here. 4.7 into the Indonesia region. Prior to that, we're looking at quite a bit of time from that morning earthquake there in Japan. Not a whole lot going on further west across the Java Trench for now. I think we'll probably see this advance here pretty soon. I don't know. I'm still keeping my eyes up here around the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and the northern edge here of the Pacific Plate. Got to watch that, considering that volcano activity kicking up in the height of it all. Across areas of Turkey and the Mediterranean region, things look fairly active here. More so than they do back across the Indonesia region today. Quite a few 3s and 2s and a whole bunch of earthquakes popping up out there across the eastern Afghanistan area. And again, over here around Turkey, they're not really showing too much activity here on the USGS map. But there is some, definitely. A couple low-grade 4s throughout the Mediterranean region and Italy. Did see that super deep 286-kilometer earthquake. And of course, that was this morning. We're starting to notice further uptick upstream in certain regions here on the map. Just one there, but as you can see here, much more shallower earthquake activity ramping up across that region following the deeper scale activity that we've seen early this morning time period. Oh, goodness. I do not like being sick, and it sucks because we've got a lot of crazy weather coming up here for the West Coast, and I'm going to have to be in it, covering it. Let's see here. All right, so I think that's about it for earthquake activity. Hawaii, I don't think there's anything abnormal going on out there right now. Looks like about 9 earthquakes or so across the Pahala area, a couple in the last hour or so. All right, let's see what we got here for space weather movement. Space weather here by solarham.net, the folks there. Currently experiencing a technical blackout there because of the Earth blacking out the data from the monitoring station. Notice unless the sun just disappeared. But no, we get these every 24 hours or so, right? The rotation that kicks up here. So, flaring activity, not very active right now. There's the latest imagery right here. It looks like 0535. The UTC time, which was just a few minutes ago. But looking at the solar sunspots here, there's not a whole lot to look at in terms of spectacular features. There's obviously quite a number of sunspots out here with only, I don't know, just trying to think here, see what's what in terms of the complex structure that these may or may not harbor. And to be honest, I'm not really seeing anything right now that poses any major flare threat. If anything, maybe a sea flare or two, but overall, I don't think we're looking at any significant chances of any flaring. 40% chance supposedly of an M flare, 10%. I don't see that of an X flare. 99% possibility, maybe. I don't know. We'll see if we get a couple C flares or not. I think they need to update those accordingly. 3242 supposedly harbors a beta gamma class structure. 3242 is going to be this feature right here. It's about the only complex structure out there. Notice a little bit of intermixing here amongst that sunspot. But still, even with that being said, there's not a whole lot of potential looking at that for some flaring. All right, green across the board. No auroras in the forecast. There is a little bit of unsettled conditions coming in here right now at the higher latitudes. Looks like maybe a 50% chance. Up into Canada, maybe northern Alaska, down into Antarctica as well. I'm sure that's got to do with a little bit of heightened CME or solar weather activity. No major CMEs headed to Earth, so not really expecting anything major going on. But occasionally we do get these little disruptions here into the space weather department that causes these auroras unexpectedly due to the potential tilt in the interplanetary magnetic field. All right, weather forecast here real quick, and I'm going to get off here. I got to get me some, I don't know what, I'm starting to feel the fever kicking in again. Didn't have a high fever, but around 99.5, and I run normally cold. Most of my life I've ran roughly around 97.7 or so for my average normal temperature. So 99.3 or 4 is elevated for me. And I'm feeling it, let me tell you. Okay, so low pressure system spinning off the coast here. This is going to drop down south along the Northern California coastline and intermix with this warmer air. Now there's a little bit of uncertainty onto how low this storm system is going to dip down and interact. If it is significantly positioned with that colder air over Northern California, we could be looking at some major heavy snowfall here above 2,000, 3,000 feet or so. And then let me show you guys kind of what happens here as it mixes in. There's that dark blue color indicating feet of snow being added to the mountains here in Northern California on top of the feet of snow that we've already got up there. So it's going to be quite a bit of accumulated snowpack And notice that this system gets a good portion of Northern California just soaking wet out here. That includes areas down into portions of Southern California as well. And what's behind that is a series of atmospheric warmer events. We're looking at this linear flow of moisture coming in to Northern California and the Pacific Northwest in general as well, with higher elevation snowfall amounts. So all this rain is going to be falling probably at sometimes below, probably about 7,000 feet and below. This is going to be rain. So all those folks that have snow at a certain elevation may not have it for long with all this heavy rain falling on top of it. There's going to be a big system coming in that looks like heavy duty one on the 13th, 14th time frame around Monday night into Tuesday. This is some significant precipitation accumulated rates here, with some heavy duty snow falling at the higher elevations once again. And that's just going to be a part of a series of storm systems that kind of flow in here to the west coast over the next couple weeks or so. And it just looks like back-to-back storm systems coming at us. And that's a good deal, right? We need it. We need it. I'm not going to complain. But I hope these folks are ready. I hope the folks that monitor all the reservoirs and whatnot are set up to potentially release some storage, which hasn't happened in quite a while, right? But we need to make room for the potential snow melt and, of course, the runoff from the spring and summertime. So I have a feeling our lakes are going to be completely full, and in that aspect, it's awesome because I love seeing the lakes out here completely full. It's a beautiful sight. Over the past few years here, it's just been an ugly sight with very low lake levels across the region. So this is welcome news. Let's see what we got here for the accumulated precipitation amounts. I don't believe these have... where am I at here? I don't even know where I'm at once again. Go back to the western U.S. Precipitation and moisture. Total accumulated precipitation here. This goes out... See how far it goes out here. It goes out until about the 24th. Okay, 25th time frame. That'll work. Here is accumulated precipitation amounts here. Looks like they've remained roughly about the same. Maybe filled in here a little bit in the Sacramento Valley. I know they did have a significant rain shadow here, but as I mentioned on my previous updates, that rain shadow will not happen due to the flow of moisture coming up here from the south. If this moisture was just coming in from the northwest, we would see a significant rain shadow here for the Sacramento Valley, but it doesn't look like it. Rain shadow down here, though, it looks like, into the San Joaquin Valley. Notice that blue in the valley. But yeah, looking at these rates, some purple, maybe 5.5 inches of rainfall, maybe more locally, up to 6 or 7 around the Sacramento Valley, northern end and Chico area. Along the mountain ranges up here, we're talking about a foot of rain. Oh goodness! And that's going to be the forecast here for at least the foreseeable future. So get used to it, California. We got a definite whopping of a series of storms coming at us. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated, and we'll be back here tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully I can knock out this cold in one night. I kind of slept most of the day, believe it or not. So I feel kind of weird. I just wasn't functioning all that great this morning, so I just laid down and slept for a few hours. And I'm hoping I can sleep tonight, but it's just weird. I don't know where it came from, just out all of a sudden. Picking up a fever and not good. Not good. All right, guys. We'll get out of here. Stay safe out there and keep an eye on a couple different regions as noted out here. You know, there's many different scenarios that could play out. But right now, I think most of the momentum and the pressure gradients are up here along the North American plate, the northern end. And as we've seen here along the west coast, we had the activity prior to the Cascadia subduction zone. That's definite sign of movement and increasing activity out here, not to mention all the buildup here along the Middle America Trench. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see how this plays out overnight. Have a good one. Take care, folks. We'll catch you guys later.